Hello and welcome to Open Line. I'm Starlene Stringer. Well, many of us have furry, four-legged friends that we love and treasure. Irving Animal Services is working to make sure we all know how to be responsible pet owners. Today, we're going to learn some ways that we can actually take part in the initiatives underway to spread the word about being great pet owners. Our guests are Animal Services Manager Corey Price, Animal Services Officer Tina Shanahan, and City Veterinarian Dr. Kate McManus. Thanks for being here, ladies.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
It is our pleasure. We're going to get right underway because I know you have a campaign that's underway. A lot of folks are excited about, Corey, and that's called SOS, which stands for Strays Off the Streets. What brought about the need for that? Are there a lot of strays?
There are a lot of strays. It's the #1 call we get through Animal Services on a daily basis. And so what we were trying to do is truly put out an SOS to our residents to help us out and take part in trying to help us reunite stray animals or lost animals with their families. And in order to do that, we decided to launch the campaign.
Well, I'm glad you said or lost animals, because sometimes you think, oh, there's a stray dog, I better call for help, and it could just be that the pet's lost or was put outside and someone forgot to let them back in. So what are the rules when it comes to keeping our pets contained or on a leash?
As far as the city ordinances, as they're written right now, you do have to keep your pets contained, and that includes dogs and cats. So you want to make sure that your pets are either inside the home or contained in a backyard, or if you're out and about, make sure that your pet is on a leash. They're not supposed to be roaming without being contained in some way.
So if, for example, if something happens and you let your pet out and it's gone, you can't find it, and you're like, oh no, my pet's lost, what do you do? Is there a report to file?
There is. You can go online to the city website, and if you look under Animal Services, there's a lost report. And we will post the lost report on the website through Animal Services. We also encourage people to come visit the shelter at, ideally daily. To come and see if their animal is there with us, and then to also check on social media and put signs up around the neighborhood to try to get reunited with their pet.
Wonderful, and we had the website on the screen so people can see that. And I know, Tina, that you go out in the streets and you see these stray animals out there. What kind of a challenge is that for y'all?
It's a pretty big challenge because sometimes they don't want to be caught. So if people could just, people think that, oh, I'm just going to let my dog out in the front yard to use the restroom, and they turn around and the dog is gone. Then we have to come in and try to, intervene and try to help that dog before it gets hit by a car, before it gets really lost. So it's hard.
It sounds like it for sure. Now, Dr. McManus, it can help that people get their pets spayed or neutered. How so?
Definitely. So they're less likely to roam if they're spayed and neutered, especially your intact male dogs. If they get neutered, that desire to go look for a girlfriend significantly decreases. So they're less likely to roam away from home or jump fences looking for a female in heat. And then certainly spaying your female will help eliminate them reproducing and having puppies or running away to get away from male dogs.
And so it also affects their overall behavior too?
It tends to calm them down a bit. You're less likely to see marking or maybe other behaviors that you don't enjoy seeing.
Yeah, very interesting. And Corey, I want to come back to you because I know part of this also is just really pushing for people to get pet identification. It's a key message of the campaign. So what are some ways you can do that?
It's really easy to come to the Animal Care campus. We have a tag machine right there, and so we can make a tag for you. If you want something a little fancier, your local pet supply store has lots of options. And then also microchipping for the purposes of, a collar and tag can fall off. So if you have a microchip with your animal, then that doesn't fall off. It's about the size of a grain of rice, and it goes right under the skin and it gets registered. And so whenever the officers are out picking up loose dogs, those are the very first things we check for. We're going to check for identification. We're going to check for that microchip, and all the officers will gladly take that animal home and not even bring that animal to the shelter, so it helps out tremendously. But the tag is important too, because your neighbor isn't going to be able to use a microchip scanner generally people don't have those at home. Those are at veterinary hospitals and shelters.
Sure.
So the tag is important, because if your neighbor 3 doors down is the one that finds your dog, they don't even ever have to call us. They can just take the animal back home. So really, identification and microchipping both are the best way to ensure that if by chance your dog does get lost or your cat does get lost, we can get them home right away. And that's really our goal. We don't want them to be at the shelter unless they are there waiting for you to come get them. We want to take them home.
That's very nice. You know, it reminds me of something that happened to us recently. My daughter and I saw a dog on our back patio. It didn't belong to us, and it had a tag on there, and I kept trying to read it, try to take a picture with my cell phone, and when it flipped over, it said, "Take me and die." And I went, oh no! And then finally the number flips over, and the dog just seemed so sweet, so I called the number on the phone, and it turns out it belonged to a soldier in Afghanistan, and his mom was taking care of the dog, and she was just so grateful. We called the number. She's like, "Thank you so much." And you know, it meant a big deal to her, but I'm sure it was so little to get that tag. Like, what kind of price range? People think, oh, I don't know if I can afford to get this done, but it's not expensive to get a tag, is it?
Not at all. At the Animal Care Campus right now, you can get a small tag for $3 and a large tag for $5. So it's just a small fee, and it'll last for quite a while. Sometimes they get worn out, and it's good to replace them, but $3 to $5 is going to keep your pet really safe, and we really encourage people to do that.
And that's if Joe Below sees them on the street or y'all, but you also have that microchipping you mentioned. And so Tina, I want to come to you and talk to you about that. People go, okay, so what do you use? It's an actual scanning device?
It's a scanner, and I didn't bring it, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
We just scan it, the microchip number pops up on the screen, and we are able to call the chip company and get the owner information so we can immediately call them and say, hey, I've got your dog. I just did it this morning. I had 2 dogs running at large. I was able to pick them up. They were microchipped. I scanned them, called the owner, got them right back home.
Well, see, through the magic of TV, we were able to see you in action. So we got to see that scanner. Thank you for telling us how you use it. Corey, I want to come back to you, because if no one does claim the stray pet that's found, how long before that pet goes up for adoption?
It varies, actually. If the animal comes in with no identification at all, that stray hold is 3 days. If they do have identification, the stray hold is longer per city ordinance. We hold them for 6 days. And the intent of that is that if they have identification, then we need that extra time to try to reach out to the owner of the animal and give them an opportunity to reclaim their animal. If we don't have any identification, then there's nobody for us to call. We're really just hoping that that person will come and discover that we have their dog in the shelter.
So for people who are going, wow, okay, so I can go adopt a pet, but they've never done so before, what are the steps you take when you go to the Animal Care Campus and you want to adopt a pet?
It's super easy, and we do that on purpose. Really, we want you to come and just visit with the animals, cats, dogs. Sometimes we have rabbits, guinea pigs. We had a snake last week.
That people adopt?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And a rat.
Oh,
Yeah.
my. Okay.
And so really, when you come and you visit with an animal and you decide that that's the right animal for you and you're ready to take the animal home, you just need to have a legal form of identification, and you do have to be over 18 because you're going to sign a contract. But we do all the conversation and get you all the information you need, and there's usually a fee. Sometimes if we're having events, those fees are lower, but the adoption fees are typically between $70 and $100, unless, again, like we're having an event. So it is pretty easy. You just visit with the pets, we counsel, and you go home.
Well, speaking of events, I understand you have a Valentine's special, right?
Yes, we
Tell
do.
us
Coming
about
up
it.
this Saturday is True Love Awaits. So, and True Love really does await. Just come and find the perfect pet to take home. We've got so many animals there that they're just waiting for somebody to take them home, and so many of them are so sweet. So it is the perfect time to come find your true love.
For sure, and that is on February 11th, in case people are watching this a little later past that. The specials for Valentine's, February 11th. And then, of course, after Valentine's, you mentioned bunny rabbits and bunnies, and oftentimes you hear people going, oh, I'm going to give a pet bunny as, you know, as a gift for Easter, but you don't always recommend that because they end up in shelters, don't they?
Sometimes it can be great to give a pet as a gift, believe it or not. When we do research, we learn that, you know, as long as you're giving it to a person who is ready to receive that animal, that can be a great thing. But sometimes pets are given as gifts to people that aren't necessarily expecting it or prepared for it, and that's when it can go wrong. So anytime you give a pet as a gift, just make sure that you've talked to that person and you kind of have an idea of what they're looking for, and you can still surprise them. But don't give a pet as a gift to somebody who's just not prepared or you know, ready for an animal to come into their life.
Makes good sense. So Tina, you kind of threw in snake when you talked about what kind of animals are in the shelter. You said and a snake. So let's move a little bit down the road here and let's talk about urban wildlife since we're talking snakes. What are the most common seen animals when it comes to urban wildlife here in Irving?
In Irving, coyotes, bobcats, opossums, raccoons, and skunks.
Oh my. And so what should we do if we see something that's causing concern in our neighborhoods?
With coyotes, look for any odd behavior, such as it being lethargic, and not necessarily if it's out in the daytime. That's kind of a myth. If they're hanging around and you're hazing them and they're still hanging around, then something might be a problem that we need to step in and intervene.
So that's the only time, because I would need you to step in and intervene anytime I saw any of those things. I'm just kidding. But Dr. McManus, seriously, we all want to keep our pets healthy. And what are the vaccinations required for our pets?
Well, legally required is certainly your rabies vaccine. So that can start at 12 weeks of age or later. And your first dose is for 1 year. And then after that, there is a vaccine that's available for 3 years. But you definitely want to make sure to be in compliance with local ordinances that you have rabies. We also recommend for dogs a distemper parvo type combination vaccine, and that is given a number of times until they're about 18 to 20 weeks of age, and then after that, that can be given annually. And then for cats, there's a FVRCP vaccine that again is kind of given like the distemper parvo vaccine until about 18 to 20 weeks of age, and then annually after that. So those aren't required by law, but they're certainly recommended by every veterinarian to keep your pet safe. And rabies is so important too, as you talk about urban wildlife. So they're kind of our barrier to urban wildlife and us by keeping us safe. So making sure that they're protected against rabies virus is very important to our health as well.
So you mentioned the ones that are required and then the 2 others that you kind of recommend. Are there any other vaccinations you recommend for pet owners?
It really depends on the situation. So if they're going to be boarding or grooming their pet, then they may want to think about the, quote unquote kennel cough vaccine. If they go into parks or hike with their pet, they may really want to think about the lepto vaccine. So there's some other vaccines that really you need to have a discussion with your veterinarian and talk about your lifestyle to see if they'd be appropriate, but they're not considered core vaccines necessarily.
I see. Okay, so Corey, I want to come back to you for a minute because I understand that the shelter welcomes a partner organization to help with some of these services, and that's TCAP, is that correct?
That's correct. It's the Texas Coalition for Animal Protection. They come to the shelter twice a month and they offer low-cost vaccines and wellness. So things like flea and tick medication, heartworm prevention, along with the core vaccines that Dr. McManus was just mentioning. And we do that as a service to the residents because really it's all about accessibility. Having a low-cost option I think is helpful for a lot of people for whatever their situation might be. Sure. So twice a month they're here, and then 4 times a year we do a free rabies and microchipping clinic with TCAP, and you are required to be an Irving resident when we do that, but it's just another service that we offer the residents if they're really in a bind. If they come at one of those quarterly events, they'll get both the rabies and the microchip for free.
Now what about the low-cost vaccinations? Is that for anyone that comes, or is that for Irving residents only as well?
The low cost is for anyone, so people can come from cities all around, and typically I think that's what happens because when we have the low-cost clinics, we're very busy and sometimes that line gets pretty long. So if you're thinking about coming out for those kinds of events, I recommend that you come early to make sure that you don't have to wait super long to get those services.
I'm glad you pointed that out. That was going to be my next question, like how many people will take advantage of this opportunity. So for the free ones, I bet the line's super long too.
Yes, the last one, it went all the way from our admitting door to the dog park, so it was quite a few people.
Yeah, that'd be a lot. So I've seen that distance, that's a lot. So also, Corey, I understand volunteers are very important, just vital to keeping the animal care clinic going and animal care shelter. So can you tell us how someone can become a volunteer?
It's really easy. All you have to do is give a phone call to DFW Humane Society. I don't know if all of our residents are aware, they are our partner out at the Irving Animal Care Campus, and DFW Humane Society manages all the volunteers campus-wide. So all you have to do is give them a phone call or visit the website, and we'll get you hooked up through orientation and make sure we pick task in the shelter that you're interested in, and we'll turn you loose and let you do what it is that you want to do. Obviously, we can't do what we do out there without our volunteers, so if you're even just a little bit interested, I encourage people to call.
So tell us about some of the opportunities you do have for volunteers. So you say you turn them loose and let them do whatever they want to do. Does that mean walking the animals? Does that mean playing with them, feeding them, cleaning, all of the above? What do you do?
All the above.
Yeah.
And we've even offered, Dr. McManus could use some help in the clinic, you know, preparing the surgery packs and doing the laundry and watching the animals as they recover and, you know, alerting her if there's anything not going the way it should. So there's really lots of opportunities, and it really boils down to what that person is interested in doing. We even have folks that help us with filing and paperwork because that's just kind of their niche, and that's okay. So anybody who wants to help out at the Animal Care Campus, like I said, it'd be great for them to just call and inquire, and we'll find a spot.
And what about ages? Is there an age requirement or age limit? I mean, what is it that you recommend for people can bring their kids with them to volunteer, or do you prefer that it just be adults?
People can bring their children with them as long as they're 12 years and up.
Okay.
And so if their child is volunteering, the parent does have to remain with them. In order for someone to come independently without a parent, they need to be 18 years or older. But under 18 is still welcome as long as they're there with a parent.
Wonderful. And what about donations? What are the needs and how do we give the donations?
We accept all kinds of things. I think the most important for us are definitely the canned foods for dog and cat, because when they aren't feeling well, the canned foods tend to do better. And we do have a wish list on our website so you can see all kinds of stuff, because it really just depends on what you wanting to donate, because there's lots of things that people don't necessarily think about. We accept towels and sheets and blankets and cat litter. And sometimes we need baby scales. Dr. Kate needs a baby scale right now to weigh the kittens and puppies to make sure they're gaining weight. And so sometimes there's some fun items on that wish list, but we always try to keep that wish list updated so we're getting the items that we need at any given time.
Very interesting. That's good to know. Dr. McManus, I have another question for you also. I know it is really important to protect our animals when it comes to weather, and it's crazy here in Texas. It's like a roller coaster. One day hot, one day cold. We could still have another cold snap. So how do we protect our pets from the cold?
I mean, ideally, bring your pet inside. So that would be the best option if you can. So when it's cold outside for you, you know, it's going to be cold outside for them, even though they do have fur. If they can't be brought inside, then certainly a dog house of some sort that has a roof and sides and a bottom as well. And I would definitely recommend bedding of some sort, so like straw or even just, you know, bedding blanket material. Ideally like a flap that can keep the weather out and keep some body heat inside, so they can go in and out, and certainly always access to water that's not frozen, and ideally food. But the best advice is always to bring them inside if that's possible.
So that's on cold days. And then on the flip side, we know we'll be hearing meteorologists say, get ready for triple-digit heat in the near future. It'll be hot before we know it. So how do we protect our pets from the heat?
Again, ideally, bring them inside with the air conditioning if you can. I know my St. Bernard certainly enjoyed being inside in the Texas summers. If they're going to be outside, they definitely need to have access to shade at all times. Definitely, I wouldn't tether them and restrict their ability to move around and find shade as the sun moves. Fresh water, again, and food as needed, but definitely a way for them to cool off as needed.
Wonderful. Thank you for that reminder for some, and, you know, good advice for those who didn't know what to do.
And definitely don't put them in the car. So people always want to take them on little road trips. I'm just going to run into the store and get batteries or something. Leave them at home. So even if it's only 70 degrees out, you park that car in the sun and it can get really hot really fast.
Wow, that's really good to point out, because people do forget. They go, oh, we're just going for a short ride.
Yep.
Well, Corey, I want to come back to you because I know something super fun is coming up very soon, Pet Pawlooza. Tell us about it.
Yes, ma'am. April 1st, that's a Saturday. We call it a dog party, and we do it every year to celebrate when the shelter opened. So this will be our 7th anniversary of the Irving Animal Care Campus. So we'll have vendors, including TCAP that we talked about earlier, doing the, on that particular day, it will be free rabies and microchipping. We'll also have a band. The Silvertones will be out there. They're a Texas blues band. We'll have food, and then there's all kinds of vendors and games for your pets. And then we're also getting group to come out and do the child ID kits this year. So it should be a great event, not only for pets, but for your family. Just come on out and have a good time.
It sounds like it's going to be a great time. Just a few minutes ago, you kind of briefly touched on something about working closely with the DFW Humane Society, and I know there are other rescue partners you work with as well. So can you tell us a bit about those relationships?
Sure. There's over 100 rescue groups that partner with us to try and help us get animals adopted out. So DFW Humane Society is our partner on the campus, but we also work with lots of other rescue groups. And what we do is we alert them to animals that need help. So we have a rescue only list, and we also have an urgent list to let them know that these are animals that we really need your help with. A lot of times it's because they have medical conditions where Dr. McManus was able to make a diagnosis, but it may be not something that we can treat just from a resource perspective, but a rescue group can then take it on and help that animal get better and be adopted out. And then sometimes they're just not socialized, or they're really scared in the shelter. And so getting them out through a rescue group can be really helpful, because when they're super scared in the shelter, it's awfully hard to get someone to say, hey, I'm gonna take that dog. And so that's where the rescue groups really come in and help us with both medical and behavior. Of course, they can come in and also take some of the healthy animals, because we want to make sure the rescues are happy as well. But when they come and do that, obviously our adopters are part of the equation too. So if we have an adopter already interested in the dog, then the rescues will choose a different one.
Well, you used the word scared, and you know what? I want to go back to microchipping, because sometimes people are a bit scared to have their pets microchipped, and they have all kinds of different reasons that they give for that, and they kind of tell you, well, I've heard this or I've heard that. Can you dispel some of those things that are false so that people understand? Is it painful? Does it cause problems for the pets? What do you hear, and what can you tell them about what's really true?
I think, Dr. McManus, do you want to take that one?
Sure. There's been no research that shows that there's ill side effects from having a microchip implanted. I've certainly implanted all of my pets, my personal pets, with microchips. So the worst that can happen that we've seen is sometimes they may migrate in the body. So you implant it between the shoulder blades, but it may kind of be down by the shoulder when you're scanning the animal. But there have been no cancers or anything like that proven from implanting a microchip in the studies that have been done.
Well, we also hear from time to time that people have the same fears when it comes to the vaccinations, and also when getting spayed or neutered. They have concerns about that for their pets. So what can you tell them about that? Should they be concerned at all?
I mean, the benefit certainly outweighs any of the risks. Nothing is going to be 100% that there's not side effects, but the benefits are definitely outweigh the risk. And I vaccinate my own pets and make sure they're current, and all of mine are spayed and neutered. So I wouldn't do something to someone else's pet that I wouldn't do to my own.
I love it. So Tina, I've got to ask you this question. What are some of the most common calls you get, and when should we actually call you?
The most calls we get are the stray animals. The coyotes have been an issue. With coyotes, if you could please haze them, and that means make loud noises, make it uncomfortable for them to be in the area. They should run off. If they don't run off and they're just standing there and they're getting closer, then absolutely call us.
Oh, you mean you want us to get like vocal with them? That's the thing to do?
Yeah, yell at them, shake rocks in a can, spray water at them.
I think I'd be like really nice if I saw one like, let me just be quiet, nice coyote, but you're like, no,
yell
at
them. Yes, go away. Yeah.
Okay. And
Absolutely.
so if that doesn't happen, then you call you.
Then please call and let us at least go out there and try to take a look to see what you're seeing.
Interesting.
But mostly the stray dogs, please keep your pet on a leash. Don't let them just go outside and use the restroom in the front yard.
It'll make your job a whole lot
Absolutely.
easier, right? Dr. McManus, tell us about some of the things you do as a city veterinarian on your job.
Sure. So we make sure all of the animals in the shelter are healthy, or as healthy as they can be, and make sure we provide care while they're in our care. So if there's something that we can do to start them on a treatment plan, or even surgically do something to help them feel better or get fixed, then we move forward with that. We spay neuter all the animals that are going out for adoption before they leave the building. And then we just make sure as animals come in, we triage emergencies just to make sure everybody is happy and healthy as possible. So
Thank you. Okay. And Corey, I want to come back to you too because I want to ask you about pet registration. I know that's an important topic. How do you do that? What's the process to getting your pet registered?
There's a couple different ways you can do it. One of the easiest ways is to go online. You will need a copy of a current rabies vaccination for your animal in order to register your pet. You can also come to the Irving Animal Care Campus and we can do it over the counter, but that current rabies vaccination is required for the registration. And so we'll just take care of it right there for you. But either way, getting your pet registered certainly helps Tina, because that's another form of identification, and we've got all your information in the system once your pet is registered, and that is required by city ordinance.
Wonderful for explaining that. Thank you so much. Now, I know another event that's coming up is one that has actually passed now, but it comes back each and every year, and it's a popular one called Clear the Shelter. For those who are not familiar with Clear the Shelters, can you tell us about it?
Sure. It started here in Irving with DFW Humane Society and Irving Animal Services. And a few years ago, with the help of the Irving Communications team, we actually approached NBC and basically told them that I really want to clear the shelter. I really want the shelter to be empty. And in order to do that, we ended up forming partnerships with shelters all over the Metroplex. So that first year was only in the DFW area, but it was trending on social media and it got a lot of attention, enough attention so that NBC Universal on the national level kind of took it on. And so now it's kind of their baby. So we're going into year 4 of Clear the Shelters, and you'll see it nationwide. Last year they adopted out over 50,000 animals nationwide, but it's pretty incredible because the day after that event, we haven't cleared our shelter yet. We usually have a few cats left. So at some point, hopefully, we will truly be empty, but it is amazing to see all the empty kennels after that event is over. This year, it is scheduled for August 19th, which is a Saturday.
August 19th, a lot of people putting that on their calendar. Now, I know that when people came to that event and they come to visit the shelter at any time, they see that you have a diversity of animals, but there are a lot of people who haven't been and they say, what? There's a diversity? Like they think all you have is very large dogs or aggressive dogs, but you have dogs, cats, you mentioned some of the other animals you have. Tell us what people can expect when they go there. They can find all kinds of animals, right?
Absolutely, and it really just depends on the day what you're going to see. And if you want a preview, our database uploads to the website every hour, so you can take a peek and see if there's anybody you're interested in. But as a general rule, we have, absolutely cats all year round, big dogs all year round. We always have small dogs. Kittens, sometimes, like I think today we don't have any kittens in the shelter, but guess what? Next week that'll change,
Yes.
So we really encourage people to just come look because the animals have a way of pulling at your heartstrings. So if you come look, I'm sure we can find a good pet that will be a good match.
So what are some of the common questions people ask when they do come and look? When they say, I want to adopt a pet, what are some of the common questions they ask you?
Most of the time they're really asking lifestyle questions. They want to know what we know about the animal. Sometimes we don't know a whole lot because all the interaction we have is that Tina picked it up or one of the other officers. And so we really kind of gauge it on what we experience in the shelter. So I think that's the hardest question to answer. What is Fluffy like? Well, here's what we've seen in the last 4 days. If it's an owner surrendered animal where a family, ran into a situation where they couldn't keep it, we do ask questions to see if we can learn more about the animal and make a better match for an adopter. But typically the questions mostly revolve around the animal itself and their personality. But sometimes we get questions about the vaccinations and the microchipping and different things that they can do to take really good care of their pet, or they'll have questions about training. And we answer all those things and try to give them all the information they need. And we always tell our adopters if they have questions going forward just to give us a call, because we're happy to give them any information that we have or point them in the right direction.
Well, you're all obviously animal lovers to do what you do, but I've got to ask you, so Tina, how many animals do you have yourself? Do you take each and every one home and go, I'm not sure if I can take this one to the shelter?
You can't take them all home. So I'm a cat person, so I have cats right now.
And what about you, Dr. McManus? How many pets do you have, and do you find yourself wanting to take them home?
I have 6 dogs of my own, and then I often foster, so I don't keep them. I get my fill by fostering, and then once they're healthy, I'm able to return them back to the shelter to get adopted.
So sweet. And Corey, how many?
I feel like I'm the odd person out. I have 1 cat and 2 dogs, but I also have 2 sons and a husband, and I'm kind of maxed out.
A little busy.
So yeah, I've got both, and I can't imagine life without either. So I always have to have at least 1 dog and cat.
Oh, well, thank you all so much for what you do to make a difference in the lives of the animals who are out there on the street stray, or the ones that are wild, urban wildlife out there, and you take great care of them. So thank you very much. We appreciate
Yeah,
that.
thank you.
Thank
And thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching. I'm STARLENE Stringer. Our next show will be on location at the brand new Outdoor Learning Center. We will find out about that facility and also learn about environmental initiatives that are underway. Watch that on Thursday, March 9th at 1:30 p.m. If you have questions, you can email them to ictn@cityofirving.org and we'll get them answered on the next edition of Open Line. We'll see you then.